Well, it's funny, he changed in two directions. Number one, he became a much better player mentally and a stronger player. In terms of his strokes and things, I think he actually became looser. And in some ways, in the beginning, that wasn't that great for him, I think. Suddenly, he went from being a very compact guy with, fairly compact strokes, a lot of trunk rotation, as you say, and then suddenly I think things got a little bit trickier, a little bit more backswing, a little bit more motion in his body, too many moving parts sometimes. And I think that was part of his problem going up to 2011. I think basically the discipline he developed after that, combined with his changes in nutrition and things, enabled him to play that elastic game with the same efficiency that he had before with those wonderful, marvelously compact, perfectly precise shots, strokes. Yeah. Well, I think there's definitely chance of a calendar year Grand Slam for the first time, and it would be a wonderful thing for him career-wise, obviously for anybody. But the thing is this: it's going to be very tough for him to catch Federer on the all-time Grand Slam number of titles. Novak had too many chances, I think, coming to this point that he didn't take and didn't capitalize on to really catch up. He could, of course, but it's looking kind of shaky. On the other hand, I mean, look, the holy grail in tennis, the ultimate prize, is the calendar year Grand Slam. And he's the guy with the best game to potentially do it. He's won on everything. His game translates the best out of all the top guys from surface to surface. Federer does too, but you have to give the French Open. You have Nadal and I think Djokovic too on clay. Would be tough for Federer. So yeah, no, I think there's no limit. I mean, I think he can win 8 or 10 more Grand Slam titles. But I think the calendar year Grand Slam this year particularly is an interesting proposition.
There's a lot of Serbian players, as we know, and then there are also players who play for Germany, like Petkovic. She's originally from Serbia. Raonic was born in Montenegro. If you can create not a stereotype, but a prototype of a Serbian player, something that kind of is characteristic of all this, is there something like a Serbian player, or it's wide range of different players when you look?
I wouldn't generalize because Janko Tipsarevic, a wonderful guy, very smart guy, does not have anything like the first reaction. This is a little bit stereotyping. It's ethnicist, I guess, or something. But the first reaction, Serbians are tough people. They're passionate people. They're strong people. So the first reaction is that Novak actually is in some ways almost like a representative Serb. And so you look at that, but really, Viktor Troicki, big guy, muscular guy. But then Zimonjic, he's happy-go-lucky, just a very, sort of mellow, calm sort of guy. So you really can't draw the stereotypes. I think what you have, though, with all these guys is, just a remarkable ability to have risen above what would seem their natural station as Serbians in the tennis community to become, a force in tennis. The French Open, of course, I believe was, 2008 or something, when you had Jelena and Anna playing each other, and Novak had his best tournament to that point, and all of a sudden it was a Serbian spring. So, I don't think you can characterize them at all, either the men or the women.
Yeah. Switching to female, we have a little resurrection of Jelena Jankovic. She came to Indian Wells, played in a final, and Anna is back in top 5. When you look at their chances, they've been number 1 at one point in the world, and they went, but now they're kind of trying to go back. How would you describe the latest thing with Jelena being in the final, Anna reaching top 5? Everybody talks about Jelena and missing Grand Slam. Is this a little bit far-fetched or? Well,
Jelena, I think she is maybe my favorite women's player style-wise. When we talk about when I wrote about Novak, the perfect player, having kind of a classic elegance. I mean, the enduring image in my mind, of Jelena will be hitting that backhand down the line with her rear foot in the air and her ponytail flying. She's a wonderful, wonderful player, but she's a drama queen. And it's almost like she loves the moth and the flame. She loves the drama of almost winning and not quite winning, and then sort of coming in and saying really cool things in the press room, which I appreciate. But that it makes it tough to Grand Slam champions. They don't have that kind of mindset in a way. They don't want the drama if they can avoid it. They love to have it as long as it's on their terms. Anna, it's tough. Anna, she's the ultimate good girl, and just like in life, where the good girls end up. So she works so hard, that girl, and she's got such a nice, clean game. I think her problem in a way is she doesn't seem to have the ability to sort of elevate and get super tough when it's most necessary. I think she runs into problems with that, and I think behind it all, there's a little bit of the boo-hoo, woe is me mentality a little bit in the back of her mind when she gets into those situations.
Yes, and Novak Djokovic, there's a little controversy in Serbia when he goes to U.S. Open and there's like 22,000 people going for Federer, going for... some people like Becker at one point mentioned that he doesn't have a respect that he should have as somebody who is like 4 years in a row in either number 2 or number 1. You've been at U.S. Open, like famous semifinal with Federer when everybody were against him, this famous return after being 2 sets down. Like this love and hate relation between Novak and audience in North America, like how would you describe? My feeling is that still he's not universally accepted, specifically in North America when it comes to the audience. So when you watch at US Open, you see like 80% going against him. Is this something part of his personality beginning when he was making jokes about people or being a little bit over the top when he is celebrating things, or he's just, or maybe you didn't even notice things that I'm asking you in a way?
No, I've noticed all those things. I think Novak's biggest problem could be summed up in 2 words: Federer and Nadal. Both of those guys have wonderful images, squeaky clean images, and look, Novak came into this as the third wheel. He's the guy who interrupted the greatest rivalry of all time, which thankfully for tennis was kind of falling apart at that point because Nadal was starting to dominate. But the average fan doesn't know this. The average fan just knows that Roger Federer is famous. Rafael Nadal is famous, Rafa and Roger, and these guys are, the names are easy to pronounce, unlike Djokovic, DJ, all the vowels.
Like party breaker, like.
Pardon?
Party breaker. He showed up in.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I don't think it's an anti-Djokovic sentiment. I don't think that people actively dislike Djokovic. What they do is they like the other guy. And when another guy is Federer or Nadal or an American player, of course, or someone else, I think his problem is compounded. I think it's difficult for him. And look, let's face it, he comes from Serbia, and he's got a funny sounding name to an English audience. We're not the most sophisticated people in the U.S., and it's very difficult to penetrate and break through and make an impression there. Well, this kind of gets into this idea that Novak is not the most popular guy around. The sad thing about that, going back to that issue for a second, is that Novak wants to be loved. Novak is a people guy. He likes to reach out. You see him, he comes into a press conference, and he likes to sit there. He's like a UN delegate, and he fields the questions. He banters with the reporters. You can tell he respects the people he's talking to. He's engaged.
Exactly.
He understands the value of these things. In an odd way, I think some of these ups and downs are the fact that there really are 2 Novaks. There's a Novak who just wants to be a regular guy and a good guy and a fun guy and get along with anybody. And there's the other Novak who wants to win big. The guys who win big, like Bjorn Borg, Jimmy Connors, John McEnroe, they didn't care about the public so much. They might have been popular. They certainly were famous. They were loved and hated. But they're not like Djokovic. Djokovic actually really wanted to connect with the people. So I think there's always been, I don't think Djokovic is the ultimate killing machine you would create to win tennis matches all the time. I think it's much to his credit that he was able to actually develop the will, the determination, the stick-to-itiveness to actually, have the kind of career he has. Because since 2011, this guy has absolutely dominated everyone, including Federer and Nadal. And if you look at the statistics from 2011 on, no question about it, he owns them. Well, he's certainly an all-around player without a lot of weaknesses, no question about it. He's already there. I think what he needs or needed, or what he could add rather, not that he needed, but the other thing he could add, I think is already in the works. His serve has improved tremendously, I think, over the past year or so. You probably have to give a lot of credit to that to Boris Becker. There's not a lot of talk about that. The coaches, the super coaches especially, or the coaches of superstar players, they don't talk very much. So you don't really know what's happening there unless the player is giving it to you. But I think Novak has made tremendous improvements in his serve. This is now going to enable him to do more attacking, to do more combinations where he hits a big serve, gets a so-so return, and then maybe hits a little drop shot or a little slicing and comes forward. And I think it would really do him good to do this, because as elastic as he is, as fit as he is, as strong and tensile as he is naturally, I think, look, he plays a very effortful game. He's gone from being, we're going back now to 2006, whenever it was I wrote about this perfect player. He's gone from being a very compact guy to being a guy with a lot going on. And it's all well timed. It's working great for him. The results are obvious. They speak for themselves. But I think it will become difficult over time to sustain that amount of effort. So the more he can shorten points at certain times, especially if he can do that with a decent serve, with a big serve, the better off he'll be, and the better his chances will be.